beautiful Thursday morning here on SOUQ News Television, and you are welcome to Across Borders, the program where we explore the intricacies of migration, not just through numbers or policies, but through people and their lived experiences. Across Africa, millions continue to move, some by choice, many by necessity. Some are pushed by poverty, conflict, or environmental stress. Others are pulled by opportunity, safety, or dreams of a better life. Today, we'll be taking a look at the real reasons behind why people move, the push and the pull factor of Africa migration, and we'll also explore how these decisions shape lives, communities, and nations. To have this conversation, we will be joined by a survival leader and a migration advocate who has turned her lived experience into powerful advocacy for empowerment, reintegration, and policy change. Chylian Azuh is trained an architect. She is the founder of the Female Returned Migrant Network Nigeria, founded in 2019 to support the well-being and sustainable reintegration of women affected by trafficking and irregular migration. Chylian is currently serving as Capacity Building Officer for the African Survival Leadership Academy under the African Survival Coalition, advancing survival-led leadership across Africa. While we look into today's topic, I am sure she's got an interesting story to share with us. We'll take a break, and upon return, our guest will be joining us, and so please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Across Borders, where we talk migration and how it impacts us as a people and a nation. We are joined, like I mentioned earlier, that Chylian Azuh will be part of us today to have this conversation. She is a survival leader and migration advocate. It's a pleasure having you join us.
Thank you so much for
a very good morning. A very good morning.
Good morning to you too.
So I would say that I'm really pleased and happy that you were able to make it to the studio. It's been long coming on this.
It's an honor.
All right, so we just go, straight into it. And it's okay that you have a story to share. We're definitely going to get there. But we are looking at the topic, the push, the pull factor. Why do people move? So I want to ask you, when we talk about why people move, what are some of the strongest push factors you've seen across Africa continent? For example, in Africa, the African Development Bank, I want to state that, actually notes that around 12 million young Africans enter the job market each year, yet only 3 million formal jobs are created. So what is this push-pull factor? What does it mean to you?
So I want to highlight first that there is this chronic youth unemployment. Just like you mentioned, it's a structural mismatch that just forces people to move. You want to be, as someone who's been through school, you want to be able to come out and get a job. But then what is available out there doesn't actually give you the kind of life you dreamed of even before you started going to school, right? So that structure isn't there. And, creating limited jobs and jobs that don't actually fit into people's ambition, that doesn't fit into what people actually want, is the reason why a lot of young people make the decision to migrate. And then you have the issues of conflict and insecurity in Africa. I'm highlighting insecurity, and I'm going to just use the story of the young man who, I think Fish Magnet is his name, who had built a business, really good business, and his life was just taken. You see, it's issues like that that just, I remember looking through some people's comments when this guy died. A lot of young people started saying, just ask me one of the reasons why I'm leaving Nigeria. It's because even if you build an empire, you're not even assured of safety, right? You also have lack of access to services like medical care, education, things that ordinarily they should be accessible to you as a citizen or as an individual. You have limited access to these things that are even like your day-to-day needs, right? And you have young people who really have strong ambitions. I want to go through good school, but then you don't have access to the resources to have what you actually desire, you know. So yes, young people are prone to move because of lack of access to these services. We talk about poverty. I think that's something that we, I don't know if I would say we don't emphasize enough. So check how much people earn in a month and what their needs are. Does that actually meet what they really want? And so when you look at it and you know that there are better opportunities out there that can actually give you that, not necessarily build you huge wealth. You want to be able to afford the necessities of life, like your daily needs, right? But when you don't have access to funding to be able to even take care of yourself and your immediate needs, you have that prompt to move. You have issues of environmental stress and resources, and you know, of course, climate change recently. So there's just a lot of reasons. I don't even know which one to highlight. Thank you.
Okay, that's a whole lot put together. So in a way, you've talked about poverty, you've talked about environmental factor and all of that. Okay, let's go to the next question. Now, we often focus on Africans, you know, heading to Europe or, say, the Middle East. But intra-African migration remains high. According to the UN, about 80% of African migrants stay within the continent. I want to ask you, why do you think that side of the migration story doesn't get as much attention?
So there's several reasons. One of it is the asylum debates that are going on. I know that it's a lot of attraction to both the media, and it just pushes this. I don't even know how to frame it, but you know, in a certain narrative that people want to interact with, right? And so because there is this certain narrative, people hardly even talk about intra-African migration. But that's even the highest, right? There are a lot of young people who migrate within Africa. There are a lot of businesses built within Africa, Africans moving within Africa and doing businesses. But those things are not talked about because there's a lot of focus, right, that is given to migrants who've gone to Europe. And also, I think I want to highlight that somehow, because of certain cultural beliefs and certain ideas within rural environments. So you have people believing that if you travel within Africa, you've not traveled. I had a conversation with someone who once said, I don't know what you think about traveling within Africa, but for me, I don't think that's travel. When you've left to places like America, when you've gone to places like Europe, when you've gone to places like Asia. Even I think someone also highlighted that if she hears about people saying they went to Asia, they didn't migrate, they should come back home.
So what's migration? So
yeah.
what's migration?
So people's knowledge, you know, people's ideas is the reason why it looks like there is no attention given to intra-African migration. And the fact is, it's even on the high because there are a lot of businesses built within Africa by Africans. Thank you.
I see. So can you share, you know, an example of someone who left, returned, and found meaning in rebuilding at home? I mean, I know you have a story to tell me. We're going to come to you later, but of course, I wanted to share with us and factors that influence that choice. Do you have one or two you'd like to share with us?
Okay, so I can't really say a lot about people who've migrated and have come back to rebuild, except for returned migrants that I work with. But then I also know that I have this boss who, Mr. Osito Semene is his name, who had actually migrated, and his return to Nigeria was to build something really great that inspired a lot of us, Patriotic Citizens Initiative. And seeing the work that he was doing, I was really inspired. He's someone who, his migration experience built what he has right now and what he is doing currently. Yeah.
Okay, so when you look at someone like this, what's the inspiration? What do you draw out of, you know, such?
Nigeria is not that bad.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so from his experience, I can say Nigeria is not as bad as many people frame it to be, or as it looks. That means there is hope, right? Please don't eat me wrong. There is hope, right? Because the narrative out there is that there is no hope. But I think there is hope. If you look at the fact that we are resilient people. We are people who like to rebuild. We are people who like to, who whatever is thrown to you doesn't really destroy you. It helps you create even bigger things. I have a lot of inspiration from a lot of young Nigerians who've, you know, been through too much. They didn't have to leave the borders to be through too much, but then they've been able to rebuild something. That's also somewhere to draw lessons from. And their growth sometimes, it amazes me because, yes, regardless of what we have here, we are able to build things that are really strong.
That's very good. I think it's encouraging. It's encouraging. So environmental challenges like drought, flooding, and, you know, desertification, you know, all of this continue to displace communities. The World Bank, projects that by 2050, climate change could force over 86 million Africans to migrate within their own countries. I want to ask you, how can government, you know, better respond to this emerging pressures? Because, yeah, if you look at it, it's a whole lot. We don't want to have a situation whereby instead of addressing the issues, we have them keep mounting pressures and it's, you know, multiplying. What do you think government should do at this point? Okay, so I think that one of the things that government needs to do is to respond quickly to the climate issues. You don't have to wait until the climate issues have really become high before addressing them. How about doing things that can actually fix the issues before they even come? I mean, create those... okay, so I think somehow young people are beginning to solve climate issues. How about the government thinks about empowering the young people who are creating these solutions to climate issues? How about working with the diaspora communities to empower young people with information that can actually help with changing the course of these issues that we foresee? So if we know that people would be on the move by 2050, we can actually create things that can make that particular thing not even happen, or when it happens, we minimize the effect, or we minimize how difficult it would be for people to cope that will force them to migrate. I think that if we go through that route, we'll be able to solve it even before it happens. So I like the fact that you've taken me to migration, and that's going to, I mean, remittance, I mean to say, and that's going to take me to, you know, the next question. Ordinarily, people see migration more often, they present it as crisis. But I can tell you that it also contributes to development through remittances. Africans in the diaspora sent home over $100 billion. They sent that home, I think that was in 2023, looking at research. Do you understand? I want to ask, how can this financial flow be better harnessed to create opportunities at home? How can we put this together?
I think that I'm not speaking for the government, because it's just here I'm recommending, right? That there are a lot of SMEs. Nigerians create businesses, but there is no empowerment for them to foster these businesses or for them to grow these businesses. How about creating, through these remittances that come in, creating, what's it called, grants that these young people who are creating businesses can actually assess, you know? And then I know that there are a lot, because I've met people in the diaspora that really want to invest at home. There are a lot of them that have good ideas, no partners, because they don't even know how to come in. You know, reduce some of the limitations to, what's it called, registrations that can actually make them, you know, pull back and decide not to invest at home. And for some of them who actually want to train people, why not create those platforms, opportunities where they can actually find these young people and train them and work with them to build sustainable businesses in Nigeria? It's not just about building businesses. We want sustainable businesses. We want to have this effect where we know that people in diaspora are actually pouring into the country, and we are seeing it happen. Like, we are seeing the impacts, right? We don't want to see that we have so and so amounts coming into the country, but then it's not being used for anything tangible. Also, I think that a lot of young people have built businesses, but they don't actually have things like good infrastructure. Let's talk about electricity, for instance. How does it feel to build a business that you pay or buy fuel for daily? That's not a growing business. That's actually a limitation. So how about partnering with these guys who actually want to invest? I have a colleague who once talked about how he wants to work with people who, what do they call them? You know, these guys who do lights that doesn't actually need...
Is it solar?
Solar. You know, but then when he looked at the options, how he would go about it, he saw a lot of limitation, and he was like, I don't think I'm ready for all of that, right? If you create pathways that make these things easier for them to access and for them to reach people at home, I think we would have a lot of businesses built that are sustainable.
That's a whole lot. And from what you've said, I want to pick out the fact that I don't think we should leave all of this to the government. I mean, I'm just saying. So let's look at private individuals and investors. What do you think they can do? Again, we can relate it to policy, you know, how government can make it easy for individuals to be able to put something together so that staying in Nigeria will be as interesting as viable as traveling, as migrating. Or what do you think?
I think that a lot of people want to partner with each other, but you know, as a Nigerian, to be honest, we have a lot of trust issues with, you know, doing businesses. And it also stems from the fact that there is corruption almost everywhere. So if I'm going to register my business and it's easy to access it, and I know that, oh, when I go there, it's just a free flow to registration, and I'm working with this individual to make it happen. Or, oh, this private sector has this opportunity, can we go work with them? You know, we are not leaving everything to government, but there is a lot of limitation that have been created by policy, a lot. So if we look at all of that and clear that out of the way, I think so many people, don't you want to collaborate with me?
Why not?
So yeah, let's do this together. If everything seems is as easy as supposed, I think collaboration would be very
easy. I see. We're hoping that all of this will be put together. The government, private investors, everybody. Yeah, of course, they're going to get this message. Everybody, let's put hands together to get things done. So I have a question, but I'm going to come to that, talking about the youth. So we cannot be having all of this conversation and we're not talking about technology. Yeah. We're not talking about the media space. You know, how has the media influenced this push and pull factor that we're talking about? In your own experience?
Okay, so I think that selective storytelling is a big issue. So you have, I'm looking for a better word for it. So you have these selected stories of people who've made it abroad, right? And there is limited, I think some time ago I tried to talk online about how I would love people to actually step forward who are abroad to tell us their migration realities. Don't tell me that you made it in 6 months. How? Because if I understand your how, I will know if I really want to go into how you got to where you are, right? So you have these selected stories. For instance, let's take crossing through the desert and sea to Europe to Europe to work, right? You have people who, once they cross, they take videos of, oh, I'm now in Europe and I'm doing very okay. But there is no information on how they got there.
The journey.
How did you get there? You know, so if I understand your how, and I know that this your how is not as easy as you've painted it, right? And then you have a lot of stories of people who say, once you enter so and so country, the next 1 month you're already working. Which is not true, because the next 1 month you're also trying to learn the language, you're also trying to understand the people, there's a lot of struggles. There's a lot of information that you, who is even planning to migrate, need to have before leaving, right? But these people who've migrated are not actually giving you access to this information, and then they are putting out stories of how they made it. You also have like social media influencers these days who are not making it easy. These guys have like a lot of, I did this and I'm here now and this, but they are not telling you how. So I would like to ask that instead of focusing on those very positive stories, which is great, I'm not saying that their stories are bad. You also need to ask, how did they get there? What did they do? Would what they did work for you? What if it's something illegal? Because, yes, they are not going to show you that they did illegal things to get to where they are. What if it's something illegal? So, you know, you need to ask a lot of questions. People have said things like, I don't think illegal migration is a crime, but it is a crime, right? And then some of these people were illegal migrants for a long while before they even started making it. You need to ask real questions, so that you don't get into trouble.
Okay, that's very important. You need to ask the right questions you need to say. But again, while we are looking at those that want to travel, that wants to migrate, that needs that information, and they are out there, how about those policies around getting the right information? How about the people? Now let's take it to the government table. Dishing out information. Those offices that are responsible for pushing all of this information out? How effective? Again, I'll also talk about those individuals on social media platforms where you have them say, oh, there is a job. I know you've talked a bit about it, but I'm hitting on the fact that you see them say, oh, you can get a particular job at a particular amount, and you are coming in, you don't need down payment. You understand all of those? They say a whole lot, and they say, oh, it's a total package. You get there, then you start paying back gradually. All of this. How do we have authorities? Now I'm pushing it to regulations. I think that's where I'm going to. The right regulations and ensuring the right information. And what do you have to say to that?
So the first thing I would say is, I think we've, from 2017, because I started this work in 2018, between 2017 and now, there are platforms that have been created, not 100% effective, but I think they are working, and we are consistently, learning, relearning, unlearning, and trying to make sure that these platforms push out the right information. I think that one of the regulations that I would also plead with the government to look into is regular migration pathways, safe pathways. How about working with other governments to make sure that the pathways, we get this right information out there for our people, and also that the regulations, the restrictions are limited. They are not so much, because, of course, if I want to go to the UK and I find out that going to the UK has a lot of what's the word now? It's strict, it's difficult, it's not so easy to access. And someone else comes to me to say, oh, I have an easier one. You could come in, I would help you get there. I'll think twice about that one that is difficult versus the one that is easier to access, right? I think that's the reason why these influencers are actually getting people to the wrong places. If we consider working with other governments to create these pathways that are easier for our nationals to access, we would also be able to bridge that gap. Also, I think that one of the things that we need to look into is agencies that create these news about job opportunities outside the country. So recently I had I don't have their permission to share, but then I just want to say that there's a lot going on. So you have agencies, people who say they are agents that help people migrate. I think that because of corruption, right, these guys do not actually have the regular document to help people migrate, but they have, I don't know how they do it, but they have access to places where they can actually get these informations and push people out of Nigeria without that regular permits, right? So we need to make sure that these guys are no longer functional. I think once I had that conversation with Ministry of Labor, and they explained that for any agent, there is a registration done within the Ministry of Labor to be able to talk about helping people get employment outside Nigeria. We need to look more into that, because there's a lot of agencies out there that are not documented. Great,
great, great. I think it's very important, because the number of agencies or individual that goes on social media to push this agenda, if I'll put it that way, it's alarming. Day in, day out, you see different people come on social media to say a whole lot of things, either leading people right or misleading people. But again, I want to ask you, for those young people that believes that all hopes for them lies abroad, they need to go across the borders. If they don't go across the borders, life will not turn around for them. So I want to ask, what message would you give to these people, this set of individuals that believe they have to cross the border before they can make it, before they can get it right in life? What's the message for them?
The first message would be, there is nowhere you can't make it in life. It's, first of all, change the mindset that you have to go abroad, because that's the mindset that creates desperation. The moment you start thinking that there is a certain place where you have to go to get all of the resources and everything, desperation strikes in. It means that every other thing you're doing within your country would even seem abortive. None of it would seem like it's working, even when it's working, because growth takes time. I think we need to let that sink in. Growth is not a thing that happens just immediately. The fact that you're ambitious is great, but you also need to learn the principles of growth. How does it happen? What do I need? Even right here, I've seen young people who are doing so great, and I'm grateful to God for them. I really do not want to say don't travel. That's not my message. My message is, if you're going to do it, if you're going to migrate, let it not be because you're pressured, because you feel like you're not doing enough, because you feel like you're not doing well here. It has to come from a place where you understand that now I want to actually go to a different environment. You actually have a plan. You understand why. Just have your why answered first. Yes, I'm going to so and so country. I know why I'm going there. Because you understand why you're going there. Let it not be because everyone else is going or because you feel like you cannot make it in Nigeria. There is a lot that you could do that can help you first here, survive Nigeria first. Because I don't think there is any place where you go to that you don't have struggles or you don't have challenges. No. Even people abroad, if you have legit conversations with them, if you actually listen when they are talking, you would understand that they have struggles as well. Even if there are access to resources, it's not as easy as it looks. It's also as difficult as it is here too. And sometimes you should also consider the fact that you even have certain things easy. For instance, accommodation. I think that some places we have, some of you, your children of landlords, when you go there, it's not as easy. So you consider, it's not the same. You consider a lot of things before you start thinking of migrating. I know that some young people will be angry when they hear things like this. Why are you saying all of this? But the reality is it's not easy. If you get there, it's not as easy as you think, right? You have people going through a lot of abuse because they actually want to live abroad. And that abuse they wouldn't even take while being here.
Wow. A whole lot put together. We can go on and on, but you know we need to go on a short break. Before we take that break, I just want to highlight that I think it's important we understand the fact that we can also make it abroad, here in Nigeria, and that will make us talk about the pull factor when we come back briefly before we go into your own story. I am saying that let's migrate right. When you are talking about the push factor, you should also think about the pull factor. Yes, we will look at that when we come back, or put together the reasons why people move. Let's take a short break. When we come back, it's still Chylian, Azuh here, and she will be telling us some of her stories. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Every day, people move from one city to another, from one country to the next, chasing dreams, escaping limits, or simply searching for something new. Migration. It's as old as humanity itself. Some travel for education, students clutching admission letters, hearts full of hope. Some for business, briefcases packed with contracts and confidence. Others for safety, or for the promise of opportunity beyond familiar borders. But every journey has its own rhythm and its own reality. There are delayed flights, misplaced tickets, endless queues at immigration counters. There are nights in strange hotels, moments of homesickness, and the silent fear of starting over. Yet in between the frustration lies something powerful: resilience. People who leave home often build bridges between worlds. They send back remittances that keep families fed, children in school, and small businesses alive. They share new skills, new habits, and sometimes new dreams. Across Africa, migration tells 1,000 stories. A Nigerian engineer working in Kigali, a Ghanaian nurse in the UK, a Kenyan student studying in Johannesburg, a South African entrepreneur opening a cafe in Dubai. Each journey different, yet all connected by hope, by effort, by motion. And when migrants return home, they bring more than souvenirs. They bring experiences, exposure, and a new sense of what's possible. Still, migration is never easy. Integrating into new cultures takes time. Learning the language, understanding laws, adapting to weather, food, and ways of life. Some face discrimination, others find opportunity. But most discover something deeper. That movement changes not just your location, it changes your perspective. Whether it's a tourist gazing at the pyramids of Egypt, A business traveler closing a deal in Nairobi, or a student boarding a plane for the first time, every trip carries both challenge and blessing. Migration isn't just about crossing borders, it's about crossing into new versions of ourselves. It's the story of humanity in motion. Always learning, always adapting, always moving forward. Because no matter where we go, home is not always where we start. Sometimes it's where the journey takes us.
It's good to know that you are still with us. You never left, and this is Across Borders, and we are into the second part of the conversation. Yes, before we went on that break, Chylian spoke about the push, so much of the push. We want to look at the pull. Yes, we have things that pulls people back into Nigeria. One of the Across Borders episode, I think, we had someone who spoke about Africa and why he has been in Africa for about 40 years. So let's look at the pull factor. Chylian, what do you think? What are those factors that brings, people back, or that should bring people back to Nigeria?
One of the pull factors that I would like to highlight is the fact that we love to build communities. We are people who, I wouldn't want to use the word love, but we know how to build communities. We know
more like a nature.
Yes.
It's a natural thing
know
for us.
We know how to build that relationship. A friend of mine once said his compound where he lives in Germany, he has lived there for years and he doesn't know his neighbors. Oh. That can never happen in
Nigeria.
So, we have that relationship.
Communal spirit.
We have that communal spirit.
Like.
And then we also are people who, whatever we build here thrives. We have challenges, it's true, but then if you start selling anything, rest assured people would buy. We love each other, we care for each other, even if we like to hide it, we like to pretend like we don't. We care about each other. That's also another one. And then I think family ties. So majority of the people who've migrated, who've come back, and one of the things they told me about their return is the fact that they just can't survive without their families. They love their families so much, they would like to be around them. So, yeah.
That's it. So you've talked about family. You've just highlighted that Nigerians, we have more like, should I call it, communal spirit. So, and for some individuals, they live because they want their family to have a better life and all of that. I want to ask you now, we are focusing on you. So it's time for you to tell us about your story. Tell us how you started. You've walked this path personally, from experiencing irregular migration to becoming a voice for others. When you reflect on your journey, what pushed you to leave? And I want to ask again, what ultimately pulled you back, to return back and to start all over? Yes.
So now we are talking about me.
Yeah, it's about you.
So I think that one of the reasons why I actually decided to migrate was because I didn't have access to certain things. I really wanted a different life. If you know me, you know I'm very ambitious. I want to grow, I want to do better. And so not having access to the things that would have made me better was one of the reasons why I left. I didn't have control over certain things as well, right? At the time, I didn't have control over the decision to migrate, for instance, at that time. Also, I think that one of the reasons why I also migrated was because I wanted my family to be in a better position, because all my life I've dreamed of where I'm going to make my parents really proud. So when the opportunity came, why not? Yeah.
So you had to key to it.
Yeah.
You had to key into it and you moved. So before we go into the female, what do I call it now? The organization you have that you've been able to put together and you're working with, let's talk about your experience. So what was it like moving away from Nigeria? How did you start? Where did you pause and thought, oh, my Nigeria, my Nigeria? So just share this experience with us.
Okay, so when I left Nigeria in 2017, it was, like I said, the desire to grow. I just wanted the best out of life, and what life had thrown to me at the time was really hard. starting with family challenges, not necessarily my parents, it came from extended family. You know, I also had issues with school. I could not graduate at the time, and you know, had a pile up of academic issues, and I was like, okay, being someone who wanted to be an architect with a difference, with all of that challenges, that's just was there. It's not something I could change. And then I tried to build businesses with my mom, which also the Nigerian factor affected a lot of it, not finances. There was a site where we were selling, and all of a sudden sites got shut down. You know, that just made me believe that it's just back and forth here and there. And then I had, at that time, I also tried to get married like every other young girl. Of course, I was 26, so
okay.
Yeah, I really wanted to get married, and I met someone who was all into marriage at the time, and then suddenly he became cold. And that happened when I was pregnant, so I had to move back to join my dad, who, by the way, supported me so much. My siblings, they were all there for me. So when I had my baby, I started thinking about other things I could do. I had gone into farming. I had gone into other things when the opportunity came. And, you know, the pressure, I decided to migrate. Now coming to why did I pause and come back?
I mean, you traveled, yeah, the experiences you had while you were away from Nigeria, you know, because people need to learn. Do you understand? We want people to say someone with a first-hand information, first-hand experience, and share, okay, so this was what happened when I got there, briefly, anyways. This was what happened, this was how it started, and this was what I did. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we'd like you to share.
So for my reason for returning would highlight that as well, because at first, when I was leaving Nigeria, I didn't know it was going to be irregular. It was through family, so it was more of, we have all of your documents sorted out, we have everything sorted out, just come to so-and-so place, you get everything you need. I got there, and I started sensing a lot of, you know, things that didn't make sense to me. And at that time, too, because those things didn't make sense, I had this wonderful friend of mine, Victoria, so I had to quickly reach out to her and say, okay, what I'm seeing here doesn't look like what I was told, and I was still within Nigerian borders, so I just told her it doesn't look good. It looks like there is something these guys are hiding, but they've made us promises. I don't know if to trust them. So being a lawyer at the time, she told me that she doesn't think she has quick answers to what I'm asking, but I should just give her like till the next morning to gather information. But she thinks because I'm in Benin, something fishy is going on, because she also schooled in Benin. She told me, because you're in Benin right now, I think something fishy is going on, but I'll call you, you know. So towards the evening of the same day, they unpacked my bags, they took away my documents, they took away basic things that I had left home with, my son's picture, just a lot of, you know, things that were personal to me. They removed them from the bags with promises of shipping them down there. I don't need to carry all of that. Now that I've traveled a lot, I think that
you know better now.
Yeah, that would have also told me that something was wrong.
Really wrong.
Right? And then they changed the big bag I had. They made it a smaller bag, you know, prepared basic things, you know, basic
for
things.
For a light journey. You know.
Basic things. That would have also told me. That was also a red flag, but I didn't really think, I wasn't thinking about all of that at the time, of course. I left Nigeria. It was when I also got to Kano that I met with, you know, the regular Nigerian Immigration Service people who were supposed to also stop us. And also, I think at some point, NDLEA would have also been able to flag the fact that something was wrong with the three of us, because there were 3 ladies and a guy, so there were 4 of us. And, you know, they would have been able to say, these people, something is wrong, because everything started looking strange. The documents I had actually had my face, but not my name, not my age. You know, there was just a lot going on. And I had a lot of questions, but no one to answer them at the time. So then I moved, and then I got to Libya.
Okay.
I know you've heard about Libya.
So we are talking Libya today again.
I know you've heard about Libya. It was really tough crossing the desert and then getting to Libya and attempting to cross the sea with the war in 2017. If you heard about it, it was tough. At that point, I got arrested. I was put in detention. So while in detention was where I made up my mind that this is not the abroad I was promised. So at that point, I had to tell myself, you have to
you need to go back home.
Go home. You need to return. I started praying a lot because of course, I'm a very strong Christian.
No, Nigerians are prayer people.
So I prayed a lot and I asked God to help me go back home. I really want to see my family. I actually promised God that if I get the opportunity to return home, every year we're here, not to go there. Yeah, so I tried my very best to get access to opportunities to return, and God being so kind, then IOM started their assisted voluntary return. I think it started in 2017 for Nigeria, and so I took advantage of it. I registered with the embassy while in prison, by the way. I took advantage of it, and then I decided I was going to come back home, which I came back December of the same year.
Oof, okay. Well, I'm glad that you are home now and you are doing pretty well. So that's the life you wanted, the life you actually looked out for that made you to move away from the shores of Nigeria. You couldn't even get a bit of it at all, ending up in the prison. So I think this will help every individual out there that are thinking travel and they are thinking using the irregular route to take note and to do it right. I think that's very important. Yes, we are still talking while people move, the push and pull factor. But Alice has something for us. Let's take a look. We'll be right back.
Migration has always been part of African story, from ancient trade routes to modern airways. Today, aviation has redefined movement, connecting continents, shrinking distances, and turning dreams into destinations. Across Africa, people move for opportunity or survival, seeking education, jobs, and safety. Affordable flight and visa programs have made air travel both gateway to opportunity and pathway of escape. Before airplanes, movement happened by foot, camel, or sea. Now, aviation links African capitals, creating new trade and migration corridors where journeys that once took weeks now take hours. Air routes have become the new migration map, from Lagos to London, from Accra to Toronto, Addis Ababa to Dubai. Yet, visa limits, ticket prices, and few direct flights still decide who can move and who cannot. Migration across Africa is shaped by both push and pull forces, reasons that drive people away and those that draw them toward new destinations. African migration is driven by powerful push and pull factors. Many are pushed by poverty, unemployment, conflict, political instability, and the impact of climate change that threatens livelihoods. Others are pulled by the promise of better opportunity and education quality, stable jobs, safety, and higher standards of living. For some, migration is a means of survival. For others, it's a path to growth. Together, these forces shape the movement of people across borders, turning migration into both necessity and an aspiration for millions across the continent. From fruit paths to flight paths, the story of African migration is also the story of aviation connecting opportunities, people, and possibilities. As planes take off across the continent every day, they carry more than just passengers. They carry dreams, ambitions, and the next chapter of Africa's movement story. You're watching Across Borders. I am Alice Patrick. Join us next time for more stories shaping economics and lives across the continent.
And that's it. Thank you, Alice Patrick, for that update. So we'll just go straight into the next question now. Let's talk about the network we have put together, the Female Returned Migrant Network. It has become a strong support, a strong support system for women returning from difficult journeys. What are some of the most common struggles that they face, especially when you're talking about the emotional challenges, social and economical issues? What are these ones you like to put together?
Okay, so you have issues of trauma. Going through that experience whether you went by air or by land, because people like to say, oh, it's because you went by land that you had issues of trauma. But anyone who goes through exploitative situations like as it is with human trafficking, has issues of trauma. And so we find ways of providing psychosocial support mentorship. We find ways of providing guidance to, or healing pathways, you know, how, of course, it's true that you hardly heal completely from trauma, but then you have help to recover and be able to reintegrate back into society. So we make that available for our women. We try to, because we have a lot of single moms, we have a lot of teenage girls who've been through this kind of trauma, we try to ensure that the first thing for them is to access healing opportunities, opportunities to think about their future more than they think about the past. We also have, you know, help with reintegrating them into society. So some of them face issues of rejection. You have families that say, because you've gone through this kind of experience, you're cast away, you're not a part of the family. Even if they are not even saying it directly, you also have families that pressure these girls into doing all sorts to provide for their families. We try to, you know, be that voice for the girls, for the families to understand what they are going through, how to walk them through that situation, and how to support them. Okay. You have also, right now, we are trying to get our space for our skill center. Okay. We've been doing skill acquisition, training survivors and returnees outside of a skill center. Okay. So now we are trying to get a space where they can actually stay, a safe space, because of course they need that environment to be calm, to heal, and also invest and point to themselves to be able to do better in life.
Very amazing. I mean, good work you are doing. I must say that I'm even thrilled with the fact that you returned and you decide to, you know, dive into this to ensure that other women and girls out there, they find safety. That's very key. While you're talking, you mentioned the fact that, I think that was off camera, we spoke about having some agencies having these people to sign some documents. And I'm bringing that in because you talk about families pushing their members, maybe a daughter or son, to go, you know, get all of this done. So what do you think should be done? The family is the one pressurizing them, pushing them, and handing them even over to agencies that are not legit. And you have all of these agencies telling people, oh, you need to sign this document and all of that. So when there are issues and you are going to court, I mean, you just can't win them. What do you have to say to this? How can we take care of that?
The first thing is awareness. So I think that one of the reasons why families are signing documents that they don't read or understand, why young girls are signing documents that they don't understand even before migrating, is the fact that there is limited information out there. I think there is a need for people to actually access information, to actually go to, I mean, real life awareness. You know, you have a lot of people who've been through this process. Let them speak to you about their experiences. I want to use a young lady who I kind of helped from going to Turkey in 2023. When they reached out to her family, I think her dad was really excited. From the conversation I had with this young lady, her dad was really excited to the point where the man was not even considering how the girl was feeling about where she was going to and the opportunities that have been presented before them. The man wasn't weighing it. So I looked at the fact that he wasn't even aware. He had limited knowledge. And so he's pressurizing his daughter based on what he feels he knows, like the knowledge he has at the moment, or he had at that moment, right? Now I'm helping them learn about what they should do to kind of look into this information that they've received, ensuring that they're actually making informed decisions that would help the young lady, right? So I think that one of the things is we need to raise massive awareness. A lot of survivors are doing that already. For instance, the Female Returned Migrants Network, we are also doing that. We are raising awareness, and we need to be doing that a lot, right? We also need to find ways around pushing for policies that hold people accountable. I think that in Nigeria, holding people accountable is very important. These agencies need to be held accountable. So what is the government doing about holding them accountable for the wrongdoing, for the crimes they are committing against people? And also, we need to also look into issues of corruption. So you have law enforcement agents who are actually helping these people access these documents. How do you even get a court order? How do you get a court document that people sign? I'm really concerned about Nigerians, because if anyone can walk into the court and pick up documents and make people sign them, it's a lot. So policies that can actually help with restraining people from accessing these documents, and also making sure that anyone who has access to a document that they shouldn't have access to is held accountable.
Very important.
That should be done.
Yes, because, you know, for them, they believe once you've signed those papers, you take them to court, there's nothing. I mean, you just cannot win there. But again, if there is a counter document, I think that will make a lot of sense. That's okay. So let me ask you the next question. Let's look at now the International Organization for Migration reports, you know, that over 30,000 Nigerians have been voluntarily returned, you know, from Libya and other transit countries since 2017. What does true reintegration looks like in your eyes beyond simple returning home? They just return back home and that's it. What can you say to this?
So reintegration, when I say sustainable, it means total well-being or general well-being of the individual. So we look at, most of us try to look at reintegration from the financial aspect, but there's a lot of needs that arise after migration. You have the medical needs, you have economic needs, you have people who have serious issues with trauma, you know, accommodation issues, and when you're able to give someone access to resources that can help them solve at least 90% of these issues, that can actually help them fix these issues without relying completely on you. So if a person is sustainably reintegrated into society, it means that they are not depending on you for their daily bread or a means to survive. And they are not just trying to survive. They also have like the hope of a better future. So general well-being, their mental health is okay, their health is okay. I know that nobody is complete 100%, but at least we look forward to reintegration where we could actually say that this person had at least 90% recovery. That is proper reintegration or sustainable reintegration for me.
Thank you. So let's before I go to the main question, I mean, I think I have one or two more questions to ask you before we wrap up, but I want to ask, what is that thing that you feel is actually an illusion now, something that is unrealistic, that you feel pushes those people out? How do they need to take this off mind? Then let's put it together with gender, because I see that a lot of this irregular travel thing are more of the female gender. So how do we address all of this put together?
For gender, I think that families need to stop thinking that if a woman leaves the country, the shores of the country, she has that speed to get what they need. Again, we need to balance this information that come up about gender migration, right? So there is a lot of misconception and misinformation out there. You have people believing, and I think that somehow someone had chipped it in one conversation, people believing that every woman who goes out there is going out there possibly to prostitute. That's not true. And prostitution out there also, the way you perceive it or the way you think it, it's not what you think. So if you have someone who is under the spell of sexual exploitation, do not think it's rice and beans where you just go, come out, and then you're fine. There is a lot that revolves around such things when we talk about sexual exploitation. So we need to look at those things, and families need to stop trying to force their women to migrate because they think, especially families in rural environment, because they think that if they go to those places, they have access to quick money and men that will give them everything that they need. That's not true. That's not even something that is real, right? Your daughters would actually have jobs, real jobs to do. And if their skills are not built, if they are not empowered to actually do those jobs that you are pushing them to go abroad, that's actually when they become vulnerable and fall into the spell of sexual exploitation. So I think that there is a lot that needs to change. You need to start teaching young ladies to acquire skills, strong skill sets that actually puts them in a position of advantage wherever they are. So even if they are in Nigeria or they are outside of Nigeria, they have these strong skill sets that actually positions them better. How about tech? How about things that when you have this skill, you know that, oh, because I have this skill, right, I can do better anywhere I am.
And that's it. Yes, very important, because if you have something good and you know with this you can get something done, you can put stuff on your table, I think there won't be so much of that, should I call it the wrong ambition now, you know, and you will not be desperate. You will not be desperate to be out there. You can also think about being in Nigeria and getting it right. So I'm going to ask you now, you know, you now serve as Capacity Building Officer for the African Survival Leadership Academy, promoting survival-led change. So why is survival leadership so essential in shaping migration and anti-trafficking policies across Africa? Let's take this.
I'll start this with a saying, nothing for us without us. So if you're building, if you're trying to reintegrate survivors into community, you actually need survivor voices to help with shaping those opportunities you're creating for survivors. You actually need survivors in it. One thing that I encourage and I try to speak about is the fact that some of the reintegration opportunities out there does not actually give survivors agency to, you know, to recover by themselves, to choose or have options, right? This survival-led change that we talk about is to give agency back to the people who have been affected by this crime. They are the ones who understand how they feel. They are the ones who should make policies about themselves and who should make decisions that can actually help them, right? You don't make decisions for a person. You help them. If ever you feel like they need support in any way, it is support to have that total agency, that total strength. Okay, so this is me. I own where I am right now, and I make the decision about where I'm going to be in the future. And you find out that when survivors actually lead, there is a lot of impact, because you, okay, for instance, I'm going to use just a very clear, I'm going to use a small example. When I first came back, you know, I didn't want to trust the people who were on the table writing names and taking information. Why are you taking my information to start with? But if I introduce myself and I say, for instance, my name is Chylian and I'm a returnee, the other returnee who is coming is walking towards me because they know that they can relate. There is this connection between us, right? Okay. And so if I'm leading a conversation about what affects migrants, I'm talking from the angle of being someone, yes, who has experienced it. And so we should be at that table making the decision about what affects us and where we are going from where we are right now. Very important, and I agree with you completely. That works because you're speaking from a place of personal experience and people would know, okay, yes, you have the knowledge, and that's why you are saying this. It's easy to convince people or make people see reasons with you. So I'm just going to take this last question. We are out of time. I wish we can do more, but well, probably some other time we'll bring you for another interesting topic. So you've represented Africa on global platforms, you know, from the Orion Policy Institutes to IOM Dialogues. What major policy shift or collaboration do you believe could make the biggest difference, you know, for returning migrants? So I think that this has to do with decision-making. So for returning migrants here in Nigeria, one of the policy shifts that would actually help with returning migrants is those policies that actually gives them the opportunity to make decisions by themselves, right? So I see that a lot of agencies in Nigeria try to make the decision for reintegration for migrants. This is the time to allow migrants make this decision or inform you on how to empower them or inform you on what gives them what is actually reintegration for them. I think that it's time to allow migrants, allow returnees, allow survivors to actually make the decision, to inform you, to also help you understand where they are, what they are. And another thing is, I think that now we are encouraging organizations and agencies to listen. this is the time to actually listen to survivors, hear them, understand where they are and what they are dealing with, so that you understand where to come in. Do not create one-size-fits-all reintegration opportunities for everybody. I see that there is a lot of going to business going on, and there are a lot of people who don't want to go into business. So when you're making these decisions for them, you're also endangering them, also giving them that, giving traffickers that platform to re-traffic these people. When they do not have agency, they are already thinking about, since I don't even have power over my own decisions, since I don't even have the opportunity to decide for myself where I'm going from here, that push again comes in. So we as human beings, we want to be in total control. And when you're trying to control these people, they tend to move. So they are prone to re-trafficking.
I agree with you, because I think it's important when people go out and they have a bad experience, they're coming in, there should be this level of freedom to some extent to say, okay, now I've thought about my life again, and this is how I want to go about it. Then rather than pushing to them, give them guidelines, give them advice that would work, and all of that put together.
Provide that resources, and give them the options.
Yes, let them just take decision. You think this is okay, you want to do this, and all of that. I believe it will work. That's how far we can take. But I must say thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being our guest on Just Africa today. Yes, why people move, the pull, the push, and all put together. I think we've been able to do justice to this in a bit.
Thank you.
But of course, you're going to come again.
Thank you so much.
You're going to come again. All right, and it's been Chylian, Ife, Azuh. I want to say that migration isn't just about movement. It's about meaning. It's about the search for dignity and about people finding a place to belong. I want to say a very big thank you to Chylian, Ife again, and like she have mentioned, we have said that over and over again, she's a survival leader and migration advocate, whose voice reminds us that behind every statistic is a story, and behind every journey, a human heart determined to rise again. Of course, you've heard all of that conversation. And that will be the end until next time again on Across Borders. Remember to follow us via our social media platforms at SOUQ News Television. And I am saying that you stay positive, you stay active, you stay hopeful. Just do the right thing. Do the right thing. Pick all those essential messages that we've talked about today and work on it. Until next time, we'll see you again. My name remains Grace Komalafe. Stay motivated.